police work is wildly different as a Christian than it is as someone who is not. But let me say that it's no different than life is very different as a Christian than not. So these differences I'm about to share are specific to police work, but your life's going to be different with walking with Christ, walking with Jesus. It's going to be different whether you're a policeman or an accountant or anything else that you're doing. Your life will be different. Police officers have to be courageous, and we've got to run towards the gunfire. We've got to run towards situations where we may be killed. It's a very, very dangerous profession. And non-Christian Rick Butsko, the police officer, was going into these situations on my own strength. Maybe on my own naivety of how dangerous this was. Maybe on my own courage, hoping that would be enough. Rick Butsko, Officer Rick Butsko, who is a Christian now, if you were to be in my patrol car when I was driving these situations, you would hear me quoting scripture. You would find that I'm going in with the strength of God before me. The 23rd Psalm is rolling off my lips. He who is in me is greater than he who is in the world. There's no temptation that sees me except was common to man. And on and on. So it could probably be kind of funny to see me driving fast and getting geared up to go into a dangerous situation. I'll be yelling on scripture, calling on the strength of God to lead me in the battle. So personally, there are some differences, and it feels much better thinking that you got Jesus as your partner, let me tell you. So being called to expand our family. So Melissa and I got married, and I had 2 children from my first marriage that she and I were very active in raising. So they were very much a part of our lives. And I wasn't as interested in expanding our family as she was. She was, even before our marriage, very interested in adoption. Really felt a calling to do that. And as her and our marriage was going on, I didn't want to have any more children, and she would bring up the adoption, and I really wasn't interested in talking about it. Unbeknownst to me, she was praying about this, and continually praying. And she had finally gotten to the point where she was praying for God's peace, and that she was ready to give it up. I saw her working through this a little bit, but I didn't understand the extent of it until. And she had gotten to a point where she felt that she was ready to accept that she wasn't going to adopt, that she and I were not going to have children together, and she was praying for peace for that. And during a series of conversations, I don't know why, I quickly changed my mind and thought adoption would be a really good idea. Melissa and I, my wife, went to the country of Ukraine to adopt a child. And while we were there, we ended up adopting 3 children, 3 siblings, who were older and probably not very adoptable. And that was a time when we had committed this plan from the get-go to God, because we really thought this is where we should be going, this is what we should be doing with our life. And committing this process to God from the beginning at step 1, we never lost sight of that. Through our successes, we praised Him. Through our challenges, we clung to Him. And there is no doubt in our minds, Melissa and I, when we were in Ukraine, that we were in way over our head. So we were in a foreign country. And in some sections of Ukraine, a lot of people speak English. a lot of sections they don't have that barrier. That's pretty obvious. We ran up against obstacles because of the structure of the adoption. Structure of the adoption where the families cannot be split up. We met our children and they were in different counties, so we have different courts that we had to deal with to do this because they were split up in the orphanages. We didn't have the money to do this. It's very expensive. And we ran out of money during this. God provided. It was unbelievable how He sorted out those problems. And Melissa and I look back and we're not even sure where the money came from at times. If you've ever talked to somebody who is a committed tither, they'll tell you, tithe first and watch God pay bills and money come out where you cannot even imagine. How many times have you heard that story? And that's what our counsel is to those who are adopting. And they think that their obstacle is money. It's like, go and commit this to God and watch Him do things you can't imagine. As we were getting close to leaving Ukraine, we had adopted our children and worked out the internal problems. There was a day when it almost fell to pieces. Everything almost fell to pieces. We were in the country and we were out of money. We couldn't stay in our hotel another day. We were trying to figure out how to get money wired to us. We were planning for that. We had the Ukrainian documents completed, but the documents to get into the United States were hung up because we were not authorized by the State Department to adopt 3 kids. We were waiting for that approval to get the rest of the approvals. And there's one story that is very special to us. The Bible tells us that there will be times when we will be unawares that we are entertaining angels. Melissa and I are convinced that we had one of those moments. We were miles away from our apartment during this story I'm about to tell. We were on foot, and we had given up hope that we were going to get out of the country that day, and we were really focusing on what we were going to do tomorrow. We were up against a weekend, and we really had to come up with some money. We weren't sure what the resolution was going to be when our coordinator in the country called and said we had to get to the American Embassy quick, that the papers had come through. He had found a judge that would sign the last internal document that we needed to then go to the embassy to get the American paperwork together. It was getting really close to quitting time, and we had to get to the hotel, and we went up to the main road and we were trying to flag a taxi and we couldn't, and he was on the phone and pushing us to hurry. And we started running down the street in a panic because we were trying to get into a more populated area where there were more taxis. And during this time the window for opportunity was closing. And while we're on the phone talking, a man who spoke perfect English stopped us. He said, "Are you guys looking for a taxi?" And we said that we were, and he pointed around the corner to where some taxis were in a building, and we thanked him and went around the corner, and it was really strange to have somebody that spoke perfect English where we were, and then also to have him know exactly what we were looking for when we weren't talking to him. So we ran around the corner of these taxis, and none of them spoke English, and we're trying to talk with him, and he appeared again. And he talked to the taxi driver. And we got in, he said, "Get in the taxi." And we got in the taxi and took us right to the embassy, and we got there in time. And as we look back at that experience, we were so helpless. We were so beyond our capacity. And that is just one of many stories throughout our adoption where we were right on the edge of this thing falling to pieces. And God almost waits, and it seems like right to that moment, just so there's no doubt who's really running the show, who's really making this happen. And And we weren't reluctant to praise Him. We weren't reluctant to give Him credit. And that story with the guy in the taxi, it seems kind of silly maybe, but for us it's special. As you look back with that clarity, you really get to see the power of God working in people's lives. Sometimes in the middle of it, it's not so clear to you. Sometimes in the middle of those situations, not only is it not clear, maybe you don't see it at all. But as you look back, you realize that He has not forsaken us. He's with us all the time. And having the power of a God who loves us, that wants to be with us, wants an individual relationship with us, is really beyond comprehension.